Hey friends, Kim from stampingandperfection.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have another card sketch, which I consider to be a classic card sketch. This one is also from Atlantic Hearts Sketch Challenge, and I love this sketch. This used to be one of my go-to layouts. I love doing the three squares. Sometimes I would put them down the center, sometimes I would put them along the bottom, sometimes I would put them along the top. There's a lot of different ways you can use this particular sketch. So it's kind of a fun one, and it's a classic. So I have three different ways I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to do a clear block stamping technique today. I've got my card bases cut at 4 1/4 by 11. I scored them at 5.5. I'm going to be using Catherine Pooler's Leaf Motif stamp set today. I love this one. This is an oldie but a goodie. She still has this in her shop, and I love the patterns on the leaves. I feel like it's very Zentangle, very doodly. I love them. I think they're just interesting, and it's just like a different twist on same old, same old. So I'm going to use this one. I'm going to pick 3 of those images, and then I'll use that. And I'm going to use the same color scheme that I used last week. I'm going to use the Mandarin Spice, the Sangria, the Eucalyptus, and the Sauna ink. I love them. Sometimes I'll put a red in place of the Sangria, like the Samba or the Rockin' Red. Sometimes I'll use a blue like Daydream, or some like suede shoes, some blue that I love that will go with this combination. So all I'm doing, I pulled out an old clear block, and I have this little, like, it's sort of a rectangular shaped one. It's a Stampin' Up! Block from years upon years ago, and all I did was put it on my ink pad, ink it up, stamp it down on the paper, and then I cleaned it off. Now I did the Eucalyptus, now I'm using the Sauna, which is a nice yellow color, and I'm just repeating it, and I'm being careful to clean it off. And the final one will be the Mandarin Spice. Now the card sketch calls for them to be in this row. I don't love doing it in this row, so when I do the next 2 cards, I will show you how I change it up. Like, I have my own thing I like to do. So here are 2 other ways you can do that. You can see just stamping it down. These are very well inked pads too, I might add. I'm going to stamp off. So I'm going to ink that clear block up, stamp off on a piece of scrap paper, and then I'm going to just stamp what's left onto my card front here. And I'm just cleaning up that ink where I had a little smudge, and I'm using my Tombow Mono Sanded Eraser. Now the next technique, I'm going to do the same thing. I ink it up, I stamp off, and then I spritz it a couple times with water from my Distress sprayer and stamp that down, and I get a very nice watercolor look. So I'll clean my block off again, and I'm going to do the same thing with the Sauna. I'm going to ink it up, stamp it off, and then I'm going to still overlap it, but this time I'm offsetting it a little bit. I don't love the whole vertical row thing. I like it like this. I did the same thing with the watercolor one. I inked it up, stamped it off, spritzed it twice with my distress sprayer, and then stamped it on the paper. Same thing with the Mandarin Spice. Ink it up, stamp it off, stamp it down, and this time I'm aligning that with the green, and I'm still overlapping that Sauna color. And I'm going to do the same thing on the watercolor one, and I just love the effect. So if you don't love the splotchy effect, spritz it with water and it will smooth out that ink. So this is just 3 different ways to use that clear block technique. So now I picked 3 stamps from that Catherine Pooler Leaf Motifs, and you no doubt have as many leaf stamps in your stash as I have in mine. It's crazy. So I'm using the this is Icing on the Cake, and I'm going to just stamp these, and I love that I can just stamp them and be done with it, and it's sort of a silhouette look almost, but then this just adds one more color to my fall palette here, and I really like that. I love the way that looks. So I'm going to put this one aside, and I'll do the other 2, the same way, and I'll add my sentiments. For my sentiments, I've pulled out another Catherine Pooler set called Autumn is Calling, and I'm going to use that same Icing on the Cake ink. Now for this card where everything is aligned along the side, I'm going to put that sentiment about a third of the way from the bottom. I'm using the rule of thirds here really on this card, and I quite like the way that looks. I love that this is such a beautiful chocolatey brown color. For the other two cards, I'm going to move it down because it fits better in that space where the block is moved more to the left. So I'll do the same thing with the Icing on the Cake and just stamp both of those other ones. And I really love having this set of 4 different colors here. I probably could have thrown the Sangria in. I ended up not using that anywhere. So I could have used that purple color had I wanted to do that, but I just really love the way this turned out. Now I have some stray spots on that watercolor one, which is perfectly fine. I'm going to make that look intentional, and I could just erase them, but this gives me a chance to do my splatters. So I just smush the pad onto my craft mat, spritz it with water, mix it up with a nice big round brush, and I got really big spots here. They're not usually this big, but that's okay. I like them. I love splatter. So I use the Eucalyptus. I'm going to use the Mandarin spice. Get some more in there. I'll hold my brush a little higher so that they're a little bit smaller. So I just have a few splatters, and I don't know, somehow splatters always feel like they finish off the card. Now you'll notice that one of those big splatters landed on that top leaf. That does cause that Mandarin spice square to react a little bit, but I really like the way it looks. It just gives it a watercolored look. So I enjoy that. So I pulled out a bunch of enamel dots. These are very old enamel dots from, I think these are from Stampin' Up! Years ago. I just pulled out some fall colors. I have something that's close enough to Mandarin Spice, Eucalyptus, and Sauna that I can use on there. And I'll just put a few of these dots, these enamel dots on there. I've started to try to use up stuff in my stash. So I've been pulling out old stuff that I hadn't been using, and I have no doubt that you have something you can use just like this. Maybe you have Nouveau drops. You can use the Nouveau drops here. You can use your sequins. You can use some pearls. A couple of the cards I put down the dots down near the sentiment. The one I put it up way above the sentiment, and it's just all a matter of personal taste. I'm just putting 3 dots on each and calling it a day. Now I will attach all of these to card bases using my double-sided adhesive. This happens to be scrapbook.com, and I think this is like 3/4 of an inch, and I just use a couple of pieces because I didn't put a lot of water on these, or that one in particular, so they're not warped at all. This will hold it down just fine. So I'll do the same thing with all 3 of these. And again, those card bases are 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 by 11. I score them at 5 1/2. So the last card I've done is a side fold. This is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. And whenever I put the card front down, I always open up my card base so I can just slide that card front up against the crease. And I always get them perfectly aligned since I started doing that. So that completes those 3 cards. Look how different they look. I love them. This is a great technique and just 3 simple ways to use your clear blocks like stamps and get some ink on colorful ink on your paper. Please give this video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel while you're here, and click that bell and click all for notifications so you get notifications every time I upload a new video. Make sure you stop by my blog at stampingimperfection.com to sign up for my DIY Paper Crafters Weekly project tutorial that you'll get in your email box. And you can see I used similar colors. I used the same colors in the card I made last week, and that video is up here as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.